Hello, everyone, and welcome to today's Common Ground webinar. My name is Erin Tocchini, Director of Events at the Music Business Association. Just going to start off with a few pieces of housekeeping before we get into it. Please be sure to introduce yourselves in the chat. You're going to want to make sure you change those chat settings to everyone so all attendees can see your messages. Registration, call for presentations, and hotel rooms are now available to be booked for Music Biz 2023. More info can be found at musicbiz2023.com. Today's webinar is being recorded and will be available for viewing on our website, musicbiz.org, along with past episodes of the Common Ground webinar series, our Keeping Tempo blog series, and the Future of What podcast. If you have questions for our presenter today, please be sure to drop those in the Q&A function so that he can see those. And without further ado, I'd love to introduce co-founder of Infinite Catalog, Hunter Giles. Take it away, Hunter.
Thank you, Erin, and hello, everybody. Thank you for coming. My name is Hunter. I'm a royalties nerd and the co-founder of Infinite Catalog, a royalties platform that makes tracking and sharing profits a lot easier for catalogs and creators alike. And I'm really excited to be here today to show you guys a little bit about how it works and get your questions and see if we can't have a little fun too. So quick housekeeping stuff. Yeah, we're gonna have questions at the end. Please do keeping the questions in mind as we go, but also feel free to drop them in the chat. Or not in the chat, in the Q&A separate function. And I will try to make some good decisions on whether to answer those questions right away if we're like right in the middle of a relevant part, or save them till the end. Usually these demos are super interactive with whoever we're talking to and tailored towards, their specific catalog or their setup or, their particular kind of contracts or whatever their specific deal is. So I'm always happy to give in context answers if I can. And yeah, lastly, at a certain point, I'll need a Spotify link for an album. Any Spotify link will do, or anyone can just suggest an album. So I'll call out for that, or I can just pick one myself. But it's always fun when people suggest them so they can see that it's like happening in real time and not something that we've pre-planned. So yeah, with that, I'm going to share my screen and get into it. And yeah, I want to also just make a note that this really is supposed to be royalties for everyone. I mean, royalty accounting is traditionally, a few people in the corner who maybe aren't as part of the whole team at a record label or a publisher. But royalty accounting can be a real window into how the entire catalog is working and how it's doing. And so part of the point of Infinite Catalog is to make this accessible to everybody at the catalog, everybody at the company. And when I say catalog, we always are referring to them as catalogs, but it can mean a record label, a publisher, a management company, a creator business of any kind, really. We just refer to those as catalogs. And yeah, so without further ado, this is Infinite Catalog, and this is our beautiful dashboard where you land when you log in, and you can see overtime stats here, jump menu, jump back to wherever you're recently looking at, and overtime graphs. All this stuff is super adjustable and changeable and pretty dynamic, where you can pop stuff on and off. And we also try to pepper in analytics throughout the site. And these are particularly fun. It's amazing how many record labels, myself included, which I ran a record label for many years in New York, and started getting really into it and doing royalties for my label and then my friends' labels and then their friends' labels. And that's how this whole thing got started. But anyway, most record labels or publishers, they rarely ever get to see something like this, which is just a breakdown of like how much each artist in the catalog has been making over time, or which retailers over time are responsible for the data or which formats. And this is what you get when you actually have all of your data in one place. So the first place that I like to take folks to show them how we do that is actually the account settings, which is actually what you set up on your way in when you create a new account. But the really important thing to notice here is that we can bring in data from anywhere. It can be a DSP like Amazon or Apple. It can be a PRO like ASCAP or BMI. It can be distributors like the Orchard or Red Eye or Secretly, web stores like Bandcamp, or rights like Sound Exchange, publishing like Songtrust. It really doesn't matter, or even something like Shopify. It doesn't even have to be music. Whatever you need to keep track of can be kept track of in here. Most of the time gets delivered in a data file like a CSV or an Excel file, and that's how most of the data gets in here. But we add and we build importers for new data sources all the time. There are now over 20,000 different data sources out there for music income, and we build new importers to bring in that data very regularly. Every time somebody requests one, we do them on demand. It doesn't cost you anything extra. We're very happy to build it for whoever the first catalog is through the door that needs it, because then it's set up and ready to go for the next catalog, so that they can just drag and drop their file in. Or even more ideally, we have started getting into the business of setting up direct connections. So this is how we see the future going, where we can just hook up APIs, and in this case it's with Bandcamp, who, once we explained what we were doing, they were more than happy to hook it up. And now catalogs that use Bandcamp can set this up in Infinite Catalog and have their Bandcamp transactions flow directly into Infinite Catalog and not even have to do the download upload dance. And it's really easy to set up, and we're very excited about it and excited for more ones to come. There are more in the works, including one that's like an email ingestion tool. So a lot of data gets delivered to folks through an email delivery. And with this new integration, we'll be able to bring in data that gets emailed and automatically send it to a special email address, which will ingest it in here more or less automatically, which is great. Yeah, so just a few other things down here. Currency, we can handle basically any currency in this platform, and we have some really cool ways of doing currency conversions, where, you know, the data file is in pounds or euros or another currency, but you need to calculate it in USD or the reverse. You can absolutely do that in here, and we got some really cool ways of doing that, along with some advanced calculation tools like for mechanicals, or if you do PPD style royalty accounting, or you need to do reserves. And we add new features all the time. This is a you know, cloud-based software that just gets updated regularly in the background. You don't have to like install a new version or anything. So yeah, it's very very easy to get the data in here. And yeah, once you select your importers in here, I'll take you to the import screen here. These are all already imported files. We have some cool tools that flag like if you accidentally import the same file twice, and we'll talk about cleanup in a second. But just to show you this, yeah, this is where you drop in your data and select your importer. You can use that account settings screen to narrow it down to whatever. And we also build importers for different kinds of files from the same source. So ASCAP is a great example, where they deliver their data in a number of different file types and with different information, and that's great. We will build it for any of them. It doesn't even have to be income. It could also be expenses. So if your distributor delivers your catalog's expenses in a different file, you can drag and drop that in here as well, and that will live in the account alongside your income, because royalties isn't just about income, it's also about expenses and advances and other transactions like that. So so yeah, we're really happy to be making it super easy to bring the data in. And then when you do, we also have this really cool cleanup tool that will look at whatever is in the data and then try to match it to whatever's already in the system, or create a new release altogether, or suggest creating a new release if it doesn't recognize it at all. And yeah, these kinds of tools make it really easy to match stuff once, and then you never have to match it again. We also pull in the metadata. Actually, I have another way of showing you this from Spotify, but when all the data is in here, you can start to see, moving my Zoom window, these pages get built automatically. So all your data has been dropped in, you've built your catalog, and once you do that, all of these pages get built automatically. The artist photos get pulled in from Spotify automatically. These graphs that show the income and expenses over time, and break down by release, etc. All this stuff just starts to appear. You don't have to do anything. And yeah, that's true for every artist, every release. For example, there's a release over time, or an individual track. And again, these pages just get built automatically, and they're very helpful for not just royalty accountants, but also anybody else who works at the label, or the publisher, or the management company. And also the artists and managers themselves. That's something I want to make a big deal about in here, is that this system, why we called this royalty accounting for everyone, is because Infinite Catalog was built by myself, a label, and also my co-founder is, I should go back to it. My co-founder is right there, Dev, in the band Mr. Twin Sister, great band. But it was built with the idea that it should work both equally well for the record label and the artists who are used to just getting like a PDF statement, or an Excel statement, and that's all they get. And if they wanted to, dig into this data and see it in another way, or find out something about it, that would be a very difficult thing for the label to give to them, or an annoying thing for them to ask. I mean, I used to do royalties and spreadsheets for many years, and you do get those questions and you want to be able to answer them, but it's hard when the data is just locked up in spreadsheets. When it's in a database like this, you can do really amazing things, and then share that information, and give other people the opportunity to learn for themselves. So just to give you an example of that, I'm gonna do a quick filter here, and I'll just filter down to Twin Sister for the example, but you actually don't even have to do this, because the system is built to have permissions that everyone can only ever see the data that they are tied to. They can't see another artist's data, obviously. So you wouldn't actually have to even do this if you were planning to share it with the artists themselves. But let's say we wanted to look at a particular track, and say this track, and we want to see, maybe the manager is asking, like, where is all the streams or the downloads coming from for this track, or even just the whole artist. Let's just do the whole artist. Let's do downloads just to make it easy. So if a manager is asking, like, hey, we want to know about the downloads, we want to know if they're worth caring about, or where they're happening, so we can maybe tour to those places, or just have a better handle on some of the analytics behind all this. Back in the spreadsheet days, doing royalties in spreadsheets, that's a really hard question to answer. It might take a long time, but with Infinite Catalog, you can easily just throw on a quick filter, and then do a report that's saying, okay, they wanted to know where all the downloads are coming from, like what, presumably like what country, and you can just quickly throw up this chart to visualize that, see it in a graph, and then see it in the chart as well. And the thing that makes this so unique to this kind of a system, which is typically just built for the people doing the royalties and not really for other people at catalog or you know, certainly not for the artists or the managers. With our system, all of these, the filter and the reports, which, you know, you can adjust and copy out, and, you know, you could take a screenshot like it was Spotify for artists or something and send that over and be like, there you go, there's your answer. But we thought it'd be so much better to invite folks to the platform and give them access to this, which I'll talk more about in a second. But when they have that access, you can just send them the link and then they can just click it and this will pop right up exactly the way that you've set it up for them. And that way, if they have more questions, or if they maybe were like, ooh, I didn't mean what region, I meant like what retailer, like where are the downloads coming from, or you know, or even streams, which probably a bit more sense. Giving folks the ability to click around and build these for themselves really changes the game in terms of transparency and access. And it's not that this is like information that they have to know, but when you invite them to this system and when they do have that access, whether they use it or not, it really changes the dynamic of the relationship between the artist and manager and the label or publisher or whatever kind of catalog they're working with. It really takes the temperature way down. There's no more of this questioning about like, you know, where do these numbers come from, or like, how can I trust these numbers? You know, you as the label or the publisher are now providing access to the artist, to the manager, so that they can drill down into this as much as they want or as little as they want, and really get a better sense of what's going on, and that you are all on the same team and driving towards the same goals, and not sort of like suspicious of each other from across the royalty statement, as it were, which is something that, you know, is understandable, but it doesn't really need to be that way. Like, we can all be on the same page about this when we have the right tools to do that. Oh, I've been totally not seeing these Q&A questions, so I'm going to take a quick look at these and see if there's anything that I should address in the current moment. Yeah, I think maybe I should just save all these for the end. They're really good, but also if anyone has an album that they'd like to plug or have appear in a few seconds, now would be the time to drop that in. Maybe I'll check the chat. Oh wow, some nice love in the chat from some current customers who I saw in the list of folks attending, which is great. We don't have a video import, or maybe we do actually, but we build importers all the time, and you know, I got to save all these for the end. Very exciting. But yeah, if anybody has a release, or I can just, let's see, what's my last thing that I was looking at in Spotify. Oh yeah, Steve Lacy. Well, if I don't see a question, or rather a release pop up in the chat in a second, I'll just do that one. But okay, back to our tour here. So say, you know, you got all your data in, a lot of the stuff gets populated, or you've been dropping in your data files regularly, and now you want to you need to set up your contracts, right? So how does that work in Infinite Catalog? And we're really proud of it. And the way that it works is our contracts, this is our catalog manager tool, which is a really helpful way to sort of just visualize your catalog and set up your contracts. So contracts in Infinite Catalog are incredibly simple by design. There's only the payees, splits, and an optional ledger, which helps you have uncrossed balances for the same payee, which we'll talk about a little bit more towards the end. But this is what a contract looks like in IC. We've intentionally kept it very simple, and yet there is no royalty accounting scenario that we have encountered that you cannot handle in our system with just these simple contracts, which is a huge game changer and a big difference from how a lot of the old royalty software traditionally works, which is like very large built out contracts that are you're trying to handle every single scenario sort of within the contract itself. But in our system, every contract is as simple as this, but we can still handle all the complexity that we need to by the way that we apply them through the system. So in this case, we have a contract applied just to this release, and every track inside it is just using that same contract, this same set of splits to determine what's happening to the money that is flowing into that particular track. But if you need to, you can carve out a track, say this one has a featured artist and the featured artist needs to have a particular percentage of just this track, of just the, you know, the streams and downloads and sync income from just this track. Well, you can just set up a separate track contract or just a separate contract and then apply it just to that individual track so that all of the data flowing through that track will now use this one instead of the release contract. And you can do this at increasingly sort of granular levels through the system. You can do it at the release level, the track level, also the item level. And an item is just any group of transactions that share consistent metadata or an importer. And this is also how we handle things like mechanicals, but you can just apply a contract so that you know, the mechanicals that are being generated from this particular track are part of that track's you know, data picture, but they actually need to get paid to somebody else, right? Mechanicals are typically paid to a publisher, so we wanted to be able to group these mechanicals inside this track as normal, so that when you're, you know, looking at the track page, that's still included and the mechanicals rate is already there. But the contract that's governing just those transactions is this other kind of contract that's just where the payee is that publisher and the split is 100% because they all just need to go straight to that publisher. Yeah, so between the ability to apply it to a release, a particular track, any group of transactions, or all the way down to an individual transaction within the system. This is what a transaction looks like in Infinite Catalog. Every single transaction, big or small, has a page like this that details what's going on with it, where it came from, connects it to other things throughout the site, whether it's been published so that it's viewable to the payees or the managers or whoever has access or not, along with the raw data itself. So all the raw data is always included at the bottom of every transaction page. So there's never any question about like, how did we get to these numbers? Where do these numbers come from? The raw data straight from the distributor or the DSP, or however that data originally got in the system is kept in the system and shown here at the bottom in case we ever need to reference it, or in case we ever want to like do something with this data that we're not doing currently. We still have it structured within our system, and we can pull it out and use it for other purposes or build a new feature that incorporates something from that data. And yeah, but the ultimate point is that you can apply a contract just to a specific transaction, so that if, for example, you get a sync and you get paid the all-in amount on that sync, but you were really only supposed to get the master side, you can set up a contract that just quickly splits out that single income payment, half to the publisher and then half according to the original split that it was supposed to be governed by. So yeah, again, and then, oh yeah, last thing about transaction contracts is that you can set them up and freeze them so that they are assigned to a transaction historically, but then any new transactions associated with that release or that track or whatever are split in a different way on a move forward basis. And this is how we handle situations like, okay, the split on this release was 50% up until a certain time or a certain threshold, and after that it's going to change to 85% or something. you can very easily set that up in the system so that that can all happen within here with, again, just these very, very simple contracts. And yeah, let's see if I got any releases in the chat or the Q&A. Oh, I did. Okay. Oh, that's YouTube. Here's a track. Let's see. Whoa. Okay, playing immediately. Cool, Joey Badass, awesome. And yeah, so one of the fun things about we have a connection to Spotify's API, which is where we get all of this album artwork and the track lists and artist photos and stuff. And this happens automatically whenever you ingest data, but you can also create one manually with just a Spotify link. Where, yeah, someone just sent over this, obviously, and just by dropping in this link, we already have, you know, this artist is now set up in the system, this release is set up in the system, it's been tagged as missing a contract. Oh, we also have the ability to handle bundles and compilations. And yeah, this track list show up automatically. We scrape the UPC and ISRCs from Spotify's public API, and yeah, now Joey Badass forever in our demo catalog here. So thank you for whoever dropped that in. And yeah, I'll skip the setting up the rest of the release, or setting up the contract itself, because we're surprisingly 30 minutes in already. And I definitely want to leave some time for questions at the end. So, okay, you've dropped in all your data, you've built your catalog, you've set up your contracts. Let's pay people. Let's get some statements out the door. Let's you know, do what we came here to do and do some royalty accounting. So to do that in Infinite Catalog, you set up a period, which is just the date range that you want the statement to cover. And before I jump into one of them, I wanted to call out that a big difference between our system and other systems, or doing it in spreadsheets, is in the past, what you've had to do is you kind of have to pick a frequency, like, okay, we're going to do it every quarter, and we're going to do it for everybody every quarter, or we're going to do it every 6 months, or whatever. And if you're doing it in spreadsheets, like, you definitely want to stick to a single schedule. And some of the other software that exists also has you stick to a single schedule. But this is just databases, and with our system, we really wanted to give people more flexibility and to be able to be more responsive as we move more into, like, you know, creator run catalogs where it's artists that own their own rights and are administering it themselves, or maybe starting their own record labels, or you know, record labels that want to start distributing other labels, and basically just giving everyone the ability to pay out different people at different times. So in our system, you can set up periods that are for every month, for every quarter, for every 6 months, for an entire year, or for any date range whatsoever. And these can all overlap. It won't mess anything up in the system. It won't jam it up where people will get double paid, or people will get skipped, or data will get skipped, or anything. The system will automatically account for that. And yeah, that way you can pay some people monthly, some people quarterly, other people every 6 months. And that really opens up the door to the flexibility, that and the flexibility of the contracts themselves, which, you know, again, we've only just scratched the surface of. Like, one of my favorite things that people have started doing is doing more deals where the physical release has a different split than the digital release. Maybe it's like 50-50 on the physical, but it's 60-40 on the digital or something. That would be very, very difficult without a software like this, but it's very, very easy with a software like this. So you can make different kinds of deals and tell your artists, like, we're going to pay you every month or every quarter. I mean, I really do. Every quarter is the best frequency, in my opinion, but you can definitely pay certain people monthly or pay through monthly if you need to. So yeah, this is our period dashboard, and this is like our main dashboard, but zoomed in on a particular date range. And you can see more specific stats about it, like how much you're owing folks. This is also a really cool thing to be able to see throughout the period, where you can set up a period on, day one of that period. And then as you add the data, this total payable number will grow. So you always have the ability to see how much money you are currently owing out to your collaborators, to your creators, your songwriters, whoever you're working with, and never get caught out with like, ooh, I didn't realize that other thing had recouped, and that we were going to owe this much, and I wish I hadn't just repressed that record, or whatever. And we can also show you, yeah, what your share of all the income was, the total payee share, and what your total profit was or should have been at the end of the quarter, or at the end of the period. Yeah, and you can also keep track of all of your individual artist balances, moving some Zoom windows around here, and see who's owed what. And then we also, again, make it really easy to pay out these balances. We don't process payouts in Infinite Catalog. We have found that, I mean, we probably will, but surprisingly, like, paying people money, there's lots of different ways to do that. And when we asked our customers if they would, want a feature where everyone signs up and you can pay with a click, they were like, actually, we pay artists in a bunch of different ways and we're fine for that. Can you just make it really easy to export the payable balances and then ingest what we did pay out? And so we absolutely can and do make that very, very easy, where you can just export these balances and then put them into whatever payout system you want, or you can go through them one at a time and just check them off as you pay them out. You can pay people different amounts, you can overpay people, you can underpay people. The system will account for that. It will either automatically carry over the extra, or it'll automatically deduct what you've overpaid, which is particularly helpful if things change after you have settled on these balances, after you've created statements, which they often do. Royalty accounting, as it can change, it can be very dynamic, and things can change even after you've created statements. And speaking of statements, so this is what they look like in Infinite Catalog. Though this is what we call a summary, and a summary is just like a statement, but it's always live. This is always the most up-to-date information as of the end of this period, June up through June 30th, where if you change something that happened in 2010 that affects any of these balances, or if you change something that happened on June 29th, this will update. This will automatically update, including the total payable. And with that, you always know that you're looking at the most correct version, and not like an older version before you made that correction or added that missing expense or whatever it was. But when you're ready to pay people, you don't want it to change, right? You need a record of how you got to that number and what that number was, and you need a receipt of that having been calculated the way that it was. You need a statement. You need something that won't change. So in our system, we have this dual setup of the summary for the live view and then the statements for the record. And you can generate a statement for everybody in the catalog with one click on that period page, or you can do it one at a time after you've reviewed it. And you can also check this box, and the payee will get an email that says, hey, you have a new statement in Infinite Catalog, click here to view it, and it'll take them right to their statement, which looks like this, which looks, very similar setup to the summary, but with the expressed difference that this will never change. So this is always going to be the way that it was when you ran it. These take about 5 seconds to generate. I know that a lot of people have PTSD from older software that requires a lot of time to process statements. Infinite Catalog really speeds up that quite a bit. But my favorite thing about our statements is the fact that we can track multiple balances for the same payee on the same statement. As a manager, this is something that was always drove me crazy, where if you have a record deal and a publishing deal with the same company, you're going to get two different statements. You're going to get a statement for the master side and a statement for the publishing, and those two things won't overlap or you know, have ever heard of each other. It might as well be two different payees from two different companies. But within a catalog with our ledgers, you can track multiple splits on the same ledger, so that, you know, if these things all need to be grouped together, if they need to be crossed, they can, so that this negative number is impacting the others and getting us to this total ledger balance. But these individual ledgers are not affecting each other. They are recouping on their own. They're kept completely uncrossed and separate, so that this negative number, for example, is not being factored into this total payable number, which is just the total positive payee balances. Yeah, and again, that just really simplifies things. That you're not giving an artist or a manager like 4 different statements for your 4 different things, and it makes it a lot more flexible, where you can do more deals with artists for, you know, for publishing, or start doing management stuff for them, or have a separate merch deal for t-shirts or whatever, that you know, you all agree is uncrossed from the record deal, so that you can keep those things separate. Or you can decide that that should all be one thing in the and have it tracked on the same ledger completely. Yeah, getting to our final little bit here. This is the payee dashboard. So this is where the payees or their managers or the band members, like whoever has access to a payee in the system, this is where they land when they log in. And we like to end the tour here, because this is where it starts for the artist. It starts with the manager. It starts with all the people who are on the other side of the royalty statement. You know, all that work that went into bringing the data in, cleaning it up, building the catalog, assigning the contracts, adding in expenses and stuff, which I didn't even really get into, but is very, very simple in the system. You can create transactions one at a time. You know, if a sync or expense happens and you just want to get it in here and tag it to the new Joey Badass release that you've just created in the system, you can. You can also bulk create, just bring in a file of our own format and do that, ingest transactions from anywhere, even if we don't have an importer for it. So again, just making it really, really easy to bring transactions in from anywhere. But crucially, you don't want to ever show anybody an unfinished balance. Like, you don't want to add all the income and then have the artist or manager log in overnight and see like a really inflated income balance that's not true, because you haven't added all the expenses yet. That's not transparency. That's not helping anyone. So while we do make the system incredibly transparent, there's also the system of published versus unpublished transactions, so that whoever's working on the catalog can be free to just add transactions to it and not worry that people are going to see an unfinished balance. Payees can only ever see the published transactions, and publishing transactions happens when you generate the statement automatically. So yeah, they can never see anything that you're not ready to show them, but once you are ready to show them, they get basically full access. You know, it's view only, they can't change anything, obviously. And one of my favorite views in here is this ledger view, where you can see a balance over time and how it developed and grew. So in this quick example, you know, there was an expense early on, that was it, nothing happened for a while. But then maybe you released a single and income started flowing in and the balance started creeping up, and then something big happened and you hit recoup, and then this would be paying down some of the balance, but the income kept flowing in, and now there's still a balance owed on this. But yeah, showing this over time can help be really cool for people to see, you know, when they're on track to recoup, for example. And yeah, that's one of my favorite views in the whole thing. And yeah, I'm trying to think if I've forgotten anything, but I think that's pretty much it. And we've got lots of questions, so I'm going to open it up to those, and I'll just try to go through them one by one. Please do feel free to drop more in as we go. So can you import databases from other resources such as Facebook, Instagram, Reels, Muso AI, Spotify, YouTube, UGC? So yes, we can bring in data from anywhere. The only trick is it should be transactional data. Like this is a royalty accounting software. And while we make it really easy to slice and dice and like do analytics on that royalty data, as long as it's transactional data, whether it's from Facebook, Instagram, TikTok's doing more direct deals now, stuff like that, YouTube, of course. Yeah, we can bring it in. We either already have importers built so that you can just drag and drop it in, or we would love to build them, and we build them for free as just sort of part of the deal. Okay, can you bring in data from Spotify and YouTube? Yes, we can. Told there's a limitation of the data offered by DistroKid. Yeah, so there is a reality that we are at the mercy of our the data that we're given, or that you as the catalog are given. Some distributors, some aggregators, some DSPs give you really great data that's really rich and full of information, and we're always happy to try to bring all of it in, or we do bring all of it in, and then we use as much of it as we can. But if some places make it harder than others to parse out, it'll just say like a physical sale, and I won't say like CD or LP or something like that. So we're at the mercy of the data, but you can also group it in the system in whatever way you need to, so that if it's not clear in the data itself, you can sort of set up a way to group things in the way that you need, if it is possible. Do you plan to connect to labels, Warner, Nuclear Blast, Believe, etc., only to automated solutions like DistroKid and TuneCore? Yeah, no, anywhere at all. Again, it can be from other labels. It can be from Infinite Catalog itself. I mean, we have labels that use Infinite Catalog, and then they have an imprint, and then the imprint has a completely separate Infinite Catalog account, and the data flows just from one to the other. But yeah, we can bring in data from anywhere, and we want to do more direct connections, more API connections, so that you don't even have to download and upload. But again, that works pretty well for a lot of places for now, and we're building more and more tools to make data ingestion even more automated moving forward. How is something classified as a track? Is it by ISRC, song code, etc. from the upload? Yeah, so ISRC is what we use for track identification, but crucially, you don't have to have that information in the data. If it is in the data, great, we'll probably automatically create the release and the artist and the track just by having that one ISRC that matches the track title itself. But even if you don't have that, and going back to this cleanup explanation, so this one right here is a good example. The way that the data is brought in is just the artist and the album title, no UPC, no ISRC, no anything like that. And then this in the box is what we are suggesting with the UPC for that, or with the ISRC if it is a track. And again, going back to our Joey Badass example, as we already sort of showed, the UPC and the ISRCs are automatically pulled into the system. So you can always, you can get that information pretty readily, and you don't need to have it. We're very aware that most folks don't have perfect metadata. They don't have like spreadsheets with every single ISRC and every single UPC. It's just something that people don't have. And even if you have perfect metadata in perfect spreadsheets, when you send it out into the world and it goes through retailers and DSPs and it comes back to you, there's always going to be some difference. There's always going to be some change, which is why our catalog manager is built the way that it is. I didn't really get too deep into this, but all of these different items inside these things are different. It's all this track, but coming from different places, or maybe there's a slight variation in the artist name or the track name or the album title, maybe it's brackets instead of parentheses. Maybe it says, FT period instead of featured or something like that. You need to group that together to do the royalty accounting. And our system makes it really easy to do that. For track, is it able to show related data of musical work? So you can set up a release in here to do the publishing. And you can have a version that is both, you can have a version of this that's just set up for the publishing and also set up a separate version for the master side, or you could actually do it in one release and just have different contracts at the item level. I wouldn't recommend that, but you could do it. They aren't explicitly linked in the system, but they can both be tracked side by side, as it were. Are waterfall deals possible? Can earnings from deal 1 be deducted as an expense recoupable from deal 2? Yes. So we do have an automation to do this for use case mechanicals. Royalties paid out are deducted from an artist royalties. Yeah, absolutely. And I think I even have a quick example. Oh, I guess it'd be on the release on the track level. Yeah. So to do that, the mechanicals will create separate groups of transactions for both the income and the expenses, so that the income can be sent out to that publisher and the expenses can be go against the artist's master side account. That's automated. When you create mechanicals in the system, it creates both the income and the expenses and sets it up that way. And then you can also do you can set it up so that there's a payee, they're getting paid out, and then you can bring that expense back in so that it's counted against an artist, or if it's like a producer deal or something. That wouldn't be automated, but you can do it with just like 1 or 2 extra clicks by bringing it in. Okay, we'll love to know the details of your pricing. I'll jump to that at the very end, and also want to remind people or make people aware that we actually do have a deal with MusicBiz where MusicBiz members get 30% off their first 3 months of Infinite Catalog. So we'd love to talk to you about that and hook you up with that deal. So just let us know if you do end up talking to us after this. Someone asked, how big can you scale up? What's the size of your largest catalog? We can get pretty big. I mean, our real sweet spot is our catalogs between like, making like $1,000 a month and like 100K a month. That's like the majority of our customers, but we do have customers that make hundreds of thousands of dollars a month and bring in millions and millions of lines of data a month. There's not really a limit to what we could scale to. And we have the infrastructure set up so that if we did sign like several massive labels in a row, then we would just spin up new servers to handle all that. Already talked about master and publishing. Does this work for all royalties? Writers, master use, record royalties? Yes, it absolutely does. The key thing to know about how we handle publishing, or what makes publishing different, is that with publishing, there's 2 layers of calculation. There's the song splits themselves, where it's like, this song's written by this person 50%, this other person 40%, this other person 10%. And those song splits, those we don't handle. That needs to be handled outside of IC, because that has to do with how to divide money that's not necessarily the catalogs yet. And happily, these days, there are solutions for that, like Songtrust. And we have lots of labels and publishers that use Songtrust to store their song splits and figure out, okay, this $1, was generated by this song, but we actually only have this one writer on it, so we only get 50 cents of that. But from there, you then need to take that 50 cents and do another calculation on it to figure out how much of it you as the publisher get to keep versus how much you pay out to the songwriter. And that is where IC can be super, super helpful and handle publishing, where the 50 cents has already been calculated outside of IC, but then you bring it into IC and you can assign different contracts to it, so to handle, you know, different splits for if it's related to like performance or mechanicals or sync. Those all might be at different rates, and you can set all that up in Infinite Catalog pretty quickly and be able to track that right alongside the master side data. So it's a more targeted way of handling it. We don't, you know, we're not as built out to handle like a publisher that wants to do all their own collections and then split it up according to the song splits and then do the calculations according to their publishing deals. But happily, or not happily, but we feel like the industry is moving in a way that a lot of publishers use something like Songtrust under the hood now. And so it's not that hard for them to basically treat Songtrust as like a distributor and then have their master side and all, you know, any management income, other income tracked in here alongside it. Can you add multiple labels with the same IC account? Yes, absolutely. So we do have customers that have like, you know, 3 or 4 labels, and they have different catalog instances for each of them. And yeah, we can create a single sign-on where, to give you a little sneak preview under the hood, because it looks very similar as our staff home, but you can get access to a page like this where you'll have your 4 different catalogs right there, and you can flip back and forth between them in with the single sign-on. So Dana, who asked that question, yes, we can set that up for you. You do have multiple catalogs, and we would love to set that up. Follow up on publishing. How is a track or song recognized since those aren't necessarily tied to specific recordings? Or can it be associated with multiple recordings? Can I use ASCAP song ID to identify it? Which is just a publishing catalog. So we're actually we're going to set up for ISWC, and we've already got the bones of it in place, but using probably the mechanical licensing company, the MLC's new database, we can do a similar thing where a publishing company could drop in a file from Songtrust or ASCAP or wherever that has ISWCs and automatically build their catalog from that, and then apply their contracts from there. Yeah, cool. So I think that's all the questions, but I will take a moment to talk about our pricing, which we're very proud to have be really public and transparent. And the way that it works is we track the income and we use that to assess your bill each month. So it's a flat plus a percent, but the percent goes down as your income goes up, and the flat just rises to make it a smooth transition from one tier to the next. We really didn't want to do anything where we window features or we make it so that, like, you know, you have a limited number of like tracks or contracts or anything like that. Like, we really didn't want to do that. So instead we came up with this system that's a sliding scale purely based on what you can pay, what your income is. And the more that you make, the percent goes down, so that you actually end up paying less on the gross, or on the net, I should say. It's not gross or net. The amount of income we're talking about here, we always try to make it like whatever actually hit your bank account. So in the period dashboard, for example, it's basically net of distribution fees, net of anything from outside there, or this number, actually, the income number. This is what the bill would be based on. But yeah, we're always trying to add new features, and we don't want to put any limitations on this. We want to make this accessible. And we've got some exciting things in the works to make it even more accessible. Please come and talk to us about it. We're happy to do custom deals as well. And yeah, for folks over making 100K a month, we also do enterprise deals. And yeah, that is how the pricing works. We're happy to give people a private demo or get you onboarded for a 30-day free trial. We do have a free trial where anyone can just come and sign up and start an account without adding in a credit card. And yeah, we'll be happy to do an onboarding call and get you set up so that you can really get a good feel of it, even during the free trial. And we have incredible support and service that will support you throughout. That's like a big thing that we're known for. You know, everyone who works at Infinite Catalog either is a former label or a current record label owner or a manager or an artist themselves. We're all in this world of this world. We're not tech people. I mean, we have a product staff that builds an amazing piece of software, but like they're musicians too, and they understand, and we want to build this for the community that we come from. And again, make it accessible to everyone, make it so that it's not this scary thing that no one really understands how it works. It really can be simple. Profit share in particular makes royalty accounting a much simpler affair, but the proliferation of new data sources and ways to make money from music and different kinds of income streams, that's what makes royalty accounting really hard these days. But with Infinite Catalog, we can really simplify that so that people can focus on signing more bands, doing more deals, doing more custom deals that make sense for those artists and where they're at in their careers, and not worry about whether they're getting their statements done on time, and having that be something that is contentious between them and their artists. It really doesn't have to be, and the catalogs that sign up to Infinite Catalog will tell you that it makes it a lot nicer of a situation of having the ability to talk to your artists about the money. It doesn't have to be this scary thing. It can be an informative thing, and it can be something that everyone's on the same page about. Cool. I'm going to stop sharing my screen now. Aaron, if you're still there, I've been very pleased to do this, and thank you so much for having us, and thank you for everybody who came and watched. It was a blast. And yeah, hope you got something out of it, and please come see us and talk to us and ask us about that discount, and we'd love to hook it up. Thanks
Yes.
again.
Thank you so much, Hunter, for being here today. Thank you for all the attendees as well. I know for me, I learned a lot about Infinite Catalog and how helpful of a tool it can be. So for everyone out there that's still hanging on, be on the lookout for some more info coming to your emails about how to take advantage of the Music Biz member discount, and also with the greatest contact information and get a hold of Hunter. See you all here next time. Thanks.